We've had the boat out a couple of times, and she gets us where we're going and does what we want, but the carburetor does not like to idle. So, time for some Holley Sniper EFI. I got this little throttle body in. I think that'll work pretty nice. I got the oxygen mount to go in there somehow. I got a return fitting I can put in here somewhere for return fuel to go back to the tank. And I got a fuel filter mount that I'm going to put right in here. And then got a pre-filter that's 100 microns that will sit probably right about there. And I got a fuel pump, which is going to sit right about there. And then I got all AN lines and all the AN fittings. So I've got a few more little details to figure out, like how I'm going to bolt that throttle body onto there. I'm going to have to go find an adapter plate. And I'm going to have to figure out some longer studs because that plate's 1 inch thick for that exhaust. But the first step's just going to be getting the carburetor off of there and getting the fuel pump off, which is down there, putting a fuel pump block plate in, getting the fuel line removed up to the gas tank so that I can start putting the new stuff in. So here we go. All right, got that carburetor unbolted, got the exhaust elbow unbolted. Ran into a little problem there, which I'll show you here in a sec. So all I gotta do is adapt that Rochester for her Rochester 2-barrel, whatever it is, to the Holley 2-barrel. That's an easy adapter plate to find. I disconnected the fuel line. This is a 1/4 inch NPT fitting, which is smaller than I thought, so I had to order one of those. Got the fuel pump unbolted, and I'll get that block plate put on there today. Maybe I'll get the throttle body mounted on there today. And I can start working on the fuel lines, but that little problem. Let me show you what I ran into. So here's that exhaust elbow. It's got the coolant passages running all through it, so there's no real good place to actually tap into it for an oxygen sensor, which is kind of a pain. There's a little tap location right here for getting water out of it for some reason. I don't know what you'd do that for, but I ordered this adapter plate from Hardin Marine, and they said for Mercruiser exhaust elbows, has a nice little, well-built piece of kit, but it is not the right size, not even close. If I line that hole up, that one's way off, that one's way off, that one's way off. So I gotta go back to the drawing board on how I'm going to install this oxygen sensor. And I think what I'm going to end up doing is taking a gasket, which I had to order two because the gaskets that come in the Mercruiser kit are the wrong gaskets. Apparently this is an OMC and it's slightly different. So I think I'm going to end up taking one of these gaskets and a 1 inch piece of aluminum and tracing it, and then just milling out all the holes, because really it's just a block with holes drilled in it. You could technically, I think, do this with a hand drill and a file. It would just be really, really, really time consuming. And then just drill and tap that hole. So I think that's a pretty easy part to fab up. But it means my boat's not going back together as quick as I'd hoped. So I'll get to work putting some of this other stuff on while I source that block and wait for those gaskets. Alright, since the oxygen sensor adapter didn't work, I've decided I gotta design my own. Here's my start. And printing these out on my 3D printer for fitment. My first stab at it didn't quite line up, so I made some adjustments and I'm printing take 2 now. It's just gotten started. Once I get the the layout done. Then all I gotta do is just pad it to the 1-inch thickness and then add in one hole for the oxygen sensor right here. Pretty straightforward, right? Yeehaw. All right, well, here's where I'm at. I got the adapter plate, but it's not tall enough and the kick down is hitting the intake. So I either need to cut the kick down off of that, or I need a spacer plate to raise this up. And I think a spacer plate's probably the right way to go. So, I'm not sure how to make that decision, but I think what I'll do is look at the throttle linkage and see if there's a right answer according to the throttle linkage and go from there. Because I'm not opposed to cutting that kick down piece off, but getting closer. Also, I'm on draft 4 or 5 of my custom designed O2 sensor adapter and almost got it fitting right. And I'm gonna have to live without it because see, ordering a CNC aluminum one's gonna take a couple months probably, so I'll end up running it without an oxygen sensor. But once I can figure out how to get this bolted down, then it's just a matter of wiring and fuel. Maybe she'll run. All right, got the throttle linkage all hooked up. Discovered that this thing was broken, so I zip tied it for now. All I had to do was go get a 1-inch extension right here, and that moved over where I needed it. I reused the stud off of the carburetor, and I ended up just cutting the kick down portion of this bracket off because I realized I wasn't gonna need it, and why spend another $100 on a spacer? But that moves it just the way it should. Just got to get a new cotter pin for this because I broke the one taking it off, and she's ready to go minus fuel. So now I got to run fuel from this fitting right here, and I'm going to go through a 10 mil or 100 mil pre-filter, and then a fuel pump, and then up to a 10 micron, I think it's micron, not mil, whatever, filter, and then up and over to the input here. And then I got to go from this return back to the fuel tank, so I got an adapter to go in there. And then I got to hook up some wires. And maybe at that point, I'll be able to start my engine once I get that back on over there. It's going to be, I don't have gaskets for it, so maybe I'll have to goop it until I get gaskets. But I think I'm rolling my way. All right, got my 1/4-inch NPT to 8AN adapter into the tank. Got my 8AN line up to my pre-filter, and then my pre-filter up to my fuel pump. Now I got to run my fuel pump up to the post filter, and then the post filter will go from here to the throttle body. But I got all the 8AN done, so now I'm on to 6AN, which is much easier to work with. The bigger the AN, the harder it is to get those suckers together. Doing the 10 and 12s really is a beast. So here we go, onto the feed lines. Well, she's getting dark. You can kind of see the sun going down. But I got all my fuel lines ran, so I have my 6AN feed and return coming down, coming from the fuel filter. The return goes into here. Gonna need to get another pipe clamp tomorrow and maybe cut that off when I can actually see it. But from the fuel filter, the line goes down to the out of the fuel pump, comes down through the pre-filter back to the tank. So tomorrow, can't forget to put that block off plate where the fuel pump was, or I'll make a big mess. But tomorrow I can put that block plate in, probably tie these together so they look a little nicer, something like that, and then wiring. But it's too late tonight, so tomorrow's another day. All right, got everything hooked up, checking for leaks. Got my fuel lines, don't see any leaks. Decided to mount my fuel pressure relay over there. Ran these wires that way and they go over to the battery, and then a bunch of them come back around and over to the fuel pump. Got my horn back on minus oxygen sensor because I gotta wait for that adapter to get made. And then I also ordered an arrestor. I think that's a little too big because it kind of goes right up to this tube. So I might have to get creative with that, but I went through the initial wizard and I have gauges. And now I can try to start it. All right, so here we go. I'm gonna show the screen while I try to start it. I don't know if it's gonna be possible to see it, but we'll try. Make sure we get a reading of RPM. Ooh, got an RPM reading. Yeah. It's trying. Something's not right. Time to troubleshoot. Well, she runs. What I learned is that if you put the wrong Super Sniper unit into this thing when you do the wizard, it doesn't work worth a shit. But it's running an open loop with no oxygen sensor. Idle position sensors maybe a little low. Might back that off a little bit more, but it's idling right about where it should. I think it's time to go to the lake and see how she does. But listen to this. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a fuel-injected Merc Cruiser 3.0. Let's go to the lake. Well, top speed not really affected, unfortunately. So she's running. Let's see how she starts after running a quarter tank through her.